Welcome to Super Fun Game Review Podcast Go. A look at modern and retro games with a dark sense of humor. Introducing your hosts, Steve.
Well, I'm a wreck now.
Harry.
Put it in my mouth.
Clark.
That man had one testicle and hit home runs, goddammit.
And Joe.
This went off the rails very quickly.
Let's start the show.
Welcome back to another episode of Super Fun Game Review Podcast.
Go!
All right, to my left this evening, Mr. Joe.
May your survival be long and your death be swift.
The man with the dinosaur quip, Mr. Clark.
It's a motherfucking dinosaur!
And Mr. Steve.
Fuck Seattle.
And I will be your host this evening. Am I going to lose my hand? Nah, you only need 3 fingers, though. Am I right?
Jesus Christ.
All right. Well, before we dive into our episode this evening, let's read a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought... Oh, Jesus.
Sponsored by Jesus. We're sponsored by Jesus, y'all.
And on the fourth day, he got Xbox 360.
This episode is brought to you by Deep Creek Glassworks. Deep Creek Glassworks has been making hand-blown, durable glass works of art since 2013. Ornaments, glassware, and much more, Deep Creek Glassworks has you covered. Can't find something that tickles your fancy? Just ask. And just for our listeners, you'll receive 10% off on your first order using our promo code SUPERFUN. All orders are shipped in crush-resistant boxes, and all with free shipping. That's right, free! So show your love for a small business and visit deepcreekglassworks.com. Check out their Instagram and Etsy. Works spelled W-O-R-X today.
Support it. Works.
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 Hey, what's that glass do? It works.
It works.
It does works.
Well, this evening, we're going to be talking the big hit from Naughty Dog Studios, The Last of Us 2, or Part 2, rather. So let's open the floor up to initial impressions, gents.
I was not looking forward to this game at all. Obviously,
Surprise!
If you listen to our last review of the first game, I was not looking forward to this. As soon as it came up, I was like, motherfucker. And then I couldn't find it anywhere cheaper than $60 digitally. I was like, oh, God. So I had every expectation that I was going to absolutely hate this game going into it. And that's my initial impressions.
There you go. That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see if that spins around by the end of tonight.
Right round, baby, right round.
Steve, what was your initial impression?
So as soon as this was announced, I was excited. I mean, not for the podcast, just when they said, hey, part 2 is coming. It's like, sweet, pre-ordered it. I had it ready to go. And it sat in my library until we started playing it now. I just did not get around to it. And every time I was going to play something else or something for the podcast, it was just looking at me and it's like, I'm sorry, we're going to get there. And then finally, when you suggested it for the podcast, I'm like, now it's happening. And so I was excited to finally get in and play this fucking game. It only took me, like 9, 10, no, like almost 11 months. So yeah.
Yep. Mr. Joe.
I was very excited when they announced this game because I was a huge fan of the first one. Unfortunately for me, though, this game came out slightly after Animal Crossing. So I had somebody in my household that was bogarting the television playing that. So it was very difficult for me to get time into play until recently for the podcast. So I'm glad I finally got around to it.
I was also excited for this game because the first one was one of the greatest games made of all time. And I'll be honest, though, I don't really pre-order games. I'm not that ecstatic where I need to constantly follow something. But this fell during a great period of time. COVID-19 lockdown.
Quarantine.
So this was one amongst many games that I just had a ton of extra time to just set aside and like really crank out this game. I got to say, so having played it twice within a year, it was nice having beaten it once and knowing all these like little details about the story and seeing some of those things pop out, and you can pay attention to some of the closer details second time around. I don't know if I'll have any specific examples to mention tonight, but there's definitely things that you'll miss on your first playthrough with this game. Well, anyway, let's move on into game development.
Game development.
So I don't know if you guys had a chance to look online, but there is a lot of stuff, a lot of information out there in relation to the development of this game. I tried to get through as many pages reading as possible and just kind of pick out some of the more interesting things. So I'll just kind of ramble off a couple bullet points, and if you guys have anything you want to add, by all means.
Yeah, I have one thing to talk about specifically.
Okay. So in total, there is a rough estimate of how many people worked on this game, and it is currently sitting at 2,169 individual people.
Those were some long fucking credits. I sat through them and I'm like, you never know, there might be something at the end. And I just keep seeing the pages go and go. I'm like, holy fuck, man. It's like, I know that a lot of people, it really takes to go into a game like this, but I was flabbergasted.
I did that thing where I looked online to see if it was worth it to wait through the credits or not for an extra thing, and I saw they were like, nope, nothing different at the end. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, no, it's a long set of credits. Like usually for the podcasts, I always sit through the credits just because you don't want to miss anything for when we do our review episodes, and that usually gives you enough time to go quickly make a sandwich or grab a drink and come back and then kind of check on the progress. This is one of those games where you could easily go take a shit and come back and still be completely fine.
You could go take a shit while making a sandwich and
I would
still
say,
have time.
If you do that, take a headset though, because I did enjoy the credits.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the final music.
Yeah,
I know the music in it. No,
yeah, the music was good.
Joe has a lively experience when he goes to the bathroom.
You didn't see the IMAX theater in front of his bowl? It's great.
So this game was released in June 2020. I believe the specific day was the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. Development started on this game in 2014, immediately after the release of the remaster of The Last of Us. COVID-19 delayed its release of this game, but there was a lot of delays in production because this project had a high turnover rate with employees working on it. I think also kind of helping with the long list of accredited people to this game as well. I think some of that was boosted because of how many people were in and out of the project.
I read an interesting thing about why there was a lot of turnover. Apparently, Naughty Dog was requiring a lot of crunch hours for certain departments and things like that.
12-hour days.
Which is kind of frowned upon in the game development industry right now. Like, everyone's trying to be anti-crunch hours right now. It's to stave off the fact that like all of game developers are trying to become unionized. So they're trying to like make it a better place to work and get away from that. I also know that there was a lot of turnover with the amount of graphic violence in this game. A lot of people were very uncomfortable with the working on something that was so graphically intense with the violence.
I don't know if it was specific to the violence, but I do know when it came to like portraying some of the revenge, that's a heavy theme in this game. They offered some of the people working on that if they wanted to work on something else in the game. Like, some of those guys weren't forced to work on that stuff because they knew how touchy some of that was.
Wait, there was revenge in this game?
No, not a single drop of revenge.
Okay, cool. Cool, because all I saw was like sunshine, rainbows, and puppy dogs. So I mean, I loved it. It was.
I mean, Ellie was just trying to go after Abby to shake her hand.
Yeah, she just wanted a high five the whole time.
Yeah,
and she got stuck with your high five instead.
All right, give me some stump.
That's my floppy arm.
I call that my chicken wing.
So originally started as an open world game.
Yeah, I saw that and was like, thank God.
I know. What were you thinking?
Do that.
That single-handedly could have ruined this. This game.
You get one taste of it, and I was like, nope, no, this would have been awful. It would have
Yeah.
been absolutely terrible. When you're first in Seattle and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, you can check out like these 3 different areas." I was like, "Please God, no. This can't be the rest of the game."
That had me going for a bit. I'm like, wait, is it going to be
Just turns
like
into a
this?
fucking base building game.
Yeah.
It becomes Fallout at that point.
Not to say, so it was not open world in any sense, except for possibly the early Seattle moment, or downtown Seattle rather. But we'll talk about this later in gameplay, but I think a lot of the arenas that you're faced in are significantly bigger than in the first game. What was kind of interesting about this game, they actually did motion capture on horses and dogs.
I saw that because there was an accredited. Because I looked up all the development stuff afterwards because I watched and read like all of the credits, and they actually had the accreditation for the place they got the animals from and stuff like that.
Now, I do think it's important to note this game's release was a little controversial. It got a lot of initial hate, and I think it's. I read some articles. It's based on a couple different factors that just all compiled. One, I think there was a lot of inside knowledge of like treatment of employees, and with this high turnover rate, I think some of that leaked to the community, and they caught some flack on that. Again, with the absurd amount of violence. I think there was some hate geared towards that. Some hackers actually got a hold of pieces of the game and pre-release leaked some cutscenes and some major plot points to the game.
The entire script was leaked before.
Was it the entire script?
Yep.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was the entire thing.
I know because I was one of the people that was like, I don't have any intention of playing the game, so I'm going to like read it online. And yeah, you pretty much get all of the main story beats. Like there's some other stuff that I didn't know going into this, but like knew about a lot of it going into it.
So I this article I read, it didn't mention anything about the lesbian relationship or the transgender character in the game, but I believe there was.
That was the only thing that I heard when it came to like people hate, and of course because it's the fucking internet. There's trolls everywhere, and it's just like, really, you're going to get upset that that's in a game when it's just like, I'll say my part in the story when it's just like an amazing story being told, and that's the thing that's going to set you up. Shut the fuck up! Quit being a little bitch.
I'm surprised people had an issue with like the like lesbian relationship at all, because isn't that portrayed in like the one isn't there like a Last of Us like a secret chapter for the first game?
Yeah.
And it's all about her and her girlfriend at the time, isn't it?
Kind of. They didn't really have anything intimate, I guess, in that release. So maybe because it was a little. I'm not saying graphic, but it was pushed forward a couple steps from the first
I mean, it
game
was not even remotely graphic. Abby had a crazier sex scene than Ellie did in the game.
yeah, we'll talk about that one later.
We can get into that.
Oh wait,
making some pancakes.
Jesus Christ!
I like mine with little strawberries.
Jesus! Oh my God! It's gonna be one of those nights.
Here comes Owen with some whipped cream. Yeah.
Our arms were bigger than him. We'll get into it later.
No, when it came to the feedback, I heard that from him. It's like, it's not going to deter anything. If I just go fucking jump off a bridge.
Yeah, people are fucking dumb.
It's fucking stupid. Shut up and play the game. Sorry.
Stop hating on shit. Like,
yeah.
That's the I think it's the political environment we live in these days. It is just very polarized.
Oh,
yeah. I'm not trying to enhance that conversation at all, but I think that should be mentioned. Enhance.
Can we zoom in and enhance? That's not a thing. It's not a technology. Can we enhance?
Run the numbers again.
Does anybody have anything they want to add to development there? Again, there was a lot more information. I just thought some of those were the more interesting aspects.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if we went over like every detail, we would have about 40 minutes of just development itself. So
We'd
I mean,
have to have a Last of Us Part 2 podcast where we actually talk about the story and the actual
Not a
game
bad
itself.
idea.
yeah. Stay
Last
tuned
of
for
Us
next
Part
week.
2, Part 3.
Yeah,
Here we go.
exactly.
Let's just talk about Abby's arms for an hour and a half.
That girl really liked her Second Amendment, the right to bear arms.
Yeah, she only
It's
had
like
bare
literally-
arms.
Yeah, arms of a bear. I have the strength of a bear that has the strength of two bears.
She was the strongest looking character. I'm fairly certain you could find her in like a WWE game, and she's just like jacked. Like,
Yeah.
she definitely found the steroids in the in the world afterwards.
Abby Smash! It's like, who the fuck brought She-Hulk in?
Oh man, I'm gonna love repeating that one for the rest of the evening.
She-Hulk.
All right, yeah. All right, should we?
Change Abby in your story synopsis to She-Hulk everywhere you see it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Find and replace that shit right now.
Yeah. And at least you know at one point, Abby does smash.
She does.
Yeah.
Very well. All right, let's move into story, gents. Oh wait, let's
Pump some iron into story.
We're going to pump you up into story.
Let's juggle some dumbbells into story.
Oh boy.
It's not a pancake.
All right, let's toss a pipe bomb in the story.
Oh God.
Story.
This is a little bit on the lengthy side, and it's still vague.
So's Owen. Just ask Abby.
All right.
All right, shoot your load.
The game opens up in Jackson and quickly shows the relationship issues between Joel and Ellie. Meanwhile, a group of unknown travelers are introduced with unknown intentions, searching for Jackson. When infected turn up in large numbers around Jackson, chaos ensues, and Joel and Tommy find themselves in the company of the travelers. Ellie is out trying to warn Joel of the impending doom when she approaches a house containing Joel, Tommy, and the travelers. She witnesses Abby, a member of the group, murder Joel. Dina and Ellie leave to seek out Abby and the group to deliver their form of revenge. Over the next couple days, with the later help of Jesse and Tommy, they track each member down, one at a time, and kill them. When tables turn and Abby tracks down Ellie and the group, the story changes perspective to Abby starting 3 days earlier. The story then follows Abby's quick detachment from her society while assisting two young members from a rival colony. Ellie and Abby have a showdown, with Abby coming away as victor, but not killing Ellie. Abby travels in search of the Fireflies and gets captured in Santa Barbara by a slaving community. Unable to move on, Ellie tracks down Abby again, finding her, but nearly starved to death. Ellie forces her to fight once more, and this time Ellie is the victor, but can't bring herself to kill Abby. They seemingly go their separate ways to try and rebuild their lives while living with the consequences of their decisions. Guys made that real difficult.
Yeah. Since this is an audio forum, Joe likes writing notes, and apparently Clark found 2 discs that are perfect pancake titties. Hey, good job on you for getting through that, Harry. We didn't make it easy. And there's a reason we're an audio-only medium.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, even like you said, that was a little bit of a lengthy synopsis, but that barely even like grazed the
Yeah, I
surface.
didn't know I thought that was the best medium I could find between going over the whole story and getting through it.
Yeah,
I think your Legend of Dragoon one was actually longer.
actually,
Yeah.
probably. But I mean, even with that, I will say, like, starting in the beginning of the story, because I found no spoilers in that length of time that I had this sitting and waiting and haven't played it up until we played it. I didn't know that Joel died like that fucking early in the game. Not to mention just like that brutally. Abby just beating the shit out of him in the face. Because when they run in the room and they feel hidden, and it's like, oh, wow, okay, they made it away from that horde because Joel and Tommy, found Abby and helped her out. And then she blows him in the knee with a fucking shotgun, and you're
blows him.
Yes, that part. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I'm like, yep, they're jumping on that one. And just seeing like graphically, like there's nothing basically left of the knee. It's just held on by ligament, and then he's on the ground, and she just starts smashing his fucking head in with a fucking golf club. I'm like, holy shit. It's like he's dead right off the bat. And then the first thing I thought of is like, this is probably when Clark said that he actually started enjoying the game, was just seeing Joel after after the decision, after it's in my mind, but
that's fine.
Right off,
that's fine. I mean,
that took me by like full surprise. Like, holy shit, who is Abby and why is she so fucking pissed? And then as we went further in the game to find out that her dad was the doctor trying to make the vaccine that Joel killed, I'm like, yep. Now that makes a lot more sense. It's like,
yeah,
okay. Like, holy fuck, man. It's like from that point, I'm like, all right, I gotta see this through. I gotta see what the fuck's going to happen now.
So I thought a good way to organize this tonight, since it is a pretty clear cut between two halves of the game. Why don't we focus on the Ellie half for a little bit, and then we can kind of flesh that all out, and then kind of jump over to the Abby side, and then we can kind of wrap things up with kind of connecting the two pieces and how they kind of overlay with one another.
And then we can finish off with Ellie.
Okay, so on Ellie's side of the story, what did you guys think of the like supporting characters, mainly bringing Tommy into a larger role in this game, and adding the new characters of Dina and Jesse?
I think Tommy was like well done, but I also think he was just like the gruff side of Joel. I don't feel like he stood out to me a lot, more so than like the kind of like when Joel was more pissy in the first game. Like when he first meets, or when we first meet Joel, he's kind of like an asshole. Like I kind of felt like that was Tommy the entire time, and he's like one track mind, that kind of thing. But like I liked Dina's character. I wasn't sure how much I liked the fact that she was like, "Oh, I'm pregnant," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So this is just
Yeah.
There was a few times in this game. I did enjoy the story. I've been well spoken about the fact that I like games about revenge. I think revenge is an interesting thing to examine in a larger scope. There were a lot of times where I felt like they made story beats to get your character alone, and that's it. Like it didn't make sense any other way. Like the only way that character would be alone at this time is because this happened, if that makes any sort of sense. I felt like they cheapened her character by making her pregnant. Like if she was like, she could have like soldiered on a while longer, or had her like leave to go do something else. Like I just felt like the pregnancy was like a kind of a weird cop out thing.
It changed the entire story though.
Yeah, I mean, especially, but I think that played a larger role. I could see that like in the beginning, like where we're talking there.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, look, they specifically that they came back on, but that's not like the only point. There was a lot of times where like only certain things happen. Like I don't know. I did enjoy the story, and I want to like put that out there, because like I'm just going to be critical about certain things. Overall, I thought the story was really well done. But there are certain things that I feel like they used story beats to affect the gameplay in a way that they could have done it in a more interesting way. And there's like tons of examples of that in many games. But overall, I thought the story was really well done, especially with Ellie's like beginning part in Seattle. I was worried about the whole open world thing, but that's more of a gameplay thing later.
Yeah, I did like kind of in that scene where she found out that Dina was pregnant, she kind of showed that asshole side of Joel a little bit, because Dina, it's like, how long have you known? It's like, I was late a couple weeks, I just didn't want to be a burden. And then Ellie, without missing a beat, turns to her and says, well, now you are a burden. And I was just like, ooh,
Yeah.
oh shit. It's like she said, it's like, this is awkward. And then she's like, I'm just going to go look around, make sure the rest of this is okay. It's like, I'm going to go. Like, oh shit. Okay.
Just to jump on your one comment, you said about the game kind of forcing you to be solo quite a bit. I actually thought in this game you were paired up with another individual a lot in this game compared to the first one. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's more of something that I want to discuss in gameplay.
Okay.
I noticed a pattern like halfway through the game, and it continued on, and I feel like the only time that they switched it up later was like Santa Barbara. I'll get back into that into gameplay.
Yeah,
but,
that's fair.
But because of the shaping of that, I started to kind of like retroactively think about the storyline, and I think I don't know which director, because I know there was a game, like a storyboard director for this, and there was also a gameplay director, and I'm wondering who pushed the narrative, because I don't know if the narrative is now being driven by the gameplay, or if the story is driving the game, or if the story is driving the gameplay itself. If that makes any sort of sense. Like I don't know which dictates which, or if it was all planned out. Because if it was all planned out, there's some cyclical things that were happening. Like you could tell, like in loops. It was like, oh, okay, this happens, and now I'm by myself. And okay, this happens. You know, like it's just a weird like cycle of events. And I'm hoping the story was written that way, and not that the gameplay dictated like, oh, well, we want to get this action segment and then this action segment and then this one. And to do that, you have to craft the story around it. I'm still kind of like internally debating that, but I'll like bring it up when we get to like certain aspects of the game that I noticed it.
This was a very Game of Thrones-ish. Do not get attached to any character, because once that started rolling, I'm like, as soon as you meet somebody, it's like, oh, I kind of like that. Oh, they're going to die.
There was a couple deaths, like some were like a whole scene built around it, but then some, mainly Jesse, and on Abby's side there was Manny. They just took a bullet to the face, and that's it. And then the story just moves on.
I mean, it's just like you hear the noise while you're in the theater, and you're running with Jesse to go investigate what's going on. And as soon as you open the door, Jesse just takes a fucking bullet right in the middle of the face and drops dead. You're like, oh shit, where the fuck did that come from?
So like that. Okay, that's a perfect example of one of those things where like, it's day 3, you're encountering somebody from the other party, and then your teammate is shot dead. And then you go from chasing another human and fighting another human to like into I'm just surrounded by like zombies and stuff. Like it makes these weird like comparisons to it.
I think that was kind of done on purpose to show how similar Ellie and Abby really were. But I think we're getting ahead, because Harry kind of had the thing of let's go through Ellie.
Yeah, well, we don't have to go through the whole. I don't mind jumping around on Ellie's side. I just But okay, so speaking of Jesse's death, real quick, you guys could feel free to disagree with me. I think his death was more tragic than Joel's death, in my opinion. I don't think he deserved to die to the level that Joel did.
Oh, I'll actually agree with you on that. Joel did more to deserve his death than Jesse did. I mean, yeah, of course they're going through, but he was younger. He seemed more sympathetic, like in general. He didn't really seem like a bad person, really like making those kind of decisions, like going into an entire hospital and killing them to pull out a girl that he's known for a year or so. But no, I do agree with you on that one. That one kind of hit hard, because like, oh, it's like now he wants to be a dad, and you know he's going to be there for, you know, when he finds out they're the baby. It's no, you're not. You're dead.
I thought he was one of the more interesting new characters too.
A couple things. I find it surprising that you think Jesse was actually even a main character at all, in my opinion, because he was in the first 2 hours, and then you didn't see him again until he got to the theater.
Well, I wasn't saying a main character. He was definitely a supporting character.
I'm just saying. And then his death, totally okay with that, because Abby was coming after who killed Manny. She didn't know who she was going after. She was going after somebody shot Manny and is killing a fuck ton of my dudes. I'm going in there.
My dude.
And then like, so like, she's like, okay, I'm going to shoot him. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I mean, Manny wasn't her father, but like that was like her best friend. So like
yeah.
shooting Jesse and Tommy at the time like made sense.
Oh yeah, no, I get why it makes sense. That still doesn't really take away where it was just like, that was kind of a rough one. I mean, Tommy was the one gunning down, and she saw him like when she finally caught up to him, and he fell off of the
Yeah,
pier.
I don't
But
think you ever got like oh yeah, no, yeah, because you were in hand-to-hand combat with him.
you saw him, and then because then what was the kid's name? What was it? Yeah,
Lev.
Lev. That's it. Yeah,
Lev.
Lev was like, who was that? She's like, nobody, but she knew exactly
She knew
who
who
the
it was,
fuck that. Oh yeah, yeah. Although I did like the story of like Ellie from like her days, like her 3 days in Seattle, where it was a progressive. I have photos of each of the people who were there that day who were a part of killing Joel, and I'm going
Yeah.
to kill every single one of them. And she pretty much did.
Yeah, she systematically went through and killed everybody.
Yeah, and I knew on that day 3 when she killed Mel and Owen, and that map dropped. I'm like, we're gonna see that again. That's gonna pop up at some point.
Yeah, they made it very obvious that like,
yeah.
hey, that was left behind.
Yeah, it's not like they were hiding that for a reason. It's just like, how's this gonna play out?
That's the scene where I started. I know it's kind of late in Ellie's gameplay, but that's the kind of that's the scene that I kind of questioned her morality, kind of for the first big time, more or less, because she killed. I think she just kind of killed them in cold blood. Like I know she was it Mel, the pregnant one?
Yeah.
So Mel kind of flinched and set her off, but she killed a pregnant woman, and I don't think he even did much but try to defend Mel at that point. That was a pretty rough scene that I think did not.
I mean, how do
shed
you
good
get out of
light
a
on-
situation where you're already threatening them and you're like, tell me where Abby is, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
How was that gonna end?
With them dead. And then she finds out after killing Mel because she was wearing like the bigger jacket or something, and then it's like, oh fuck, she was pregnant. Whoops.
Well, there's a bunch of hard points in this game where there's like the point of no return, and both Abby and Ellie get past these points, and there's just like there's no going back. I mean, not to jump super to the end of the game, but like the end of the game and the way that it ended is the only way that outcome could have come about. With both, I'm trying to be a little vague so then when we get there and actually talk about it, maybe I'll just get back into it then. But
yeah,
like that's the only outcome that could have happened where they both live.
One of my actually disappointments, though, when it comes to the story, that opening scene where you're kind of walking through Jackson a bit, that part of the game, like that setting, looked so rich with character. I wish we would have gotten to spend a little bit more time in that town.
It was completely devoid of options to go see anything.
Anything. Yeah, it was still very linear, even though it was a bustling town.
Yeah,
it was like
just
crowds blocking roads, so you couldn't actually explore.
I just looked interesting. Like I always had this fascination with like post-apocalyptic settings. Like how does society function? And this society looked like it was doing really well to just kind of see like what kind of steps have they done to rebuild. I don't know. I would have liked to spend a little bit of time in Jackson.
It's the same with the post-military place for Abby. This is a game of parallels, really. It is, and it's because 100%. you're living over the last 3 days. Because an interesting comparison that I've been kind of keeping in my head is the differences between Jackson and the QZ that Ellie and Joel lived in before they broke out of it, like the quarantine zone in the first game. That was much different. That was like military state. This seemed like people were like thriving, and it seemed like they actually had like a little bit of a culture to themselves. And that's like, I would have liked more of that as well. Like you were saying, Harry, like that would have been interesting to see more of. But
like
also
society.
Yeah. And in the same side, like I wanted to know more about the wolves, because the wolves seemed more than just like paramilitary. They seemed like they had like some weird culty type things going on with them as well, but like you don't really see much of that. You see more about the scars and things like that.
The Seraphites.
No, scars.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Well, scars.
They didn't want any more loudmouth Dykes and Jackson.
Steve's an
Oh,
empathizer.
Jesus Christ.
That fucking dude. Oh,
Talk about
God.
culture.
Yeah.
Seth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then Joel gets told off. You had no right, okay?
Yeah, he's just like, all
My
right.
head out.
He's like,
I'm
I am
a-
already on a thin fucking rope with this girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
I don't need to go any further.
She just found out that I made that choice for her.
Yeah, which actually finally getting to see Joel admit
Yeah, do
like
we
the
want to
truth.
discuss some of those flashbacks on Ellie's side while we're talking about Ellie?
I think the dinosaur museum was amazing.
That was
Yeah,
cool.
That was a cool moment.
Her birthday present, Joel took her to the it was like the Museum of History in like, was it Wyoming still when they were out there? Something like that. And then it's just to see them interact with each other like that was nice to see after seeing the tension and everything else that surrounded pretty much the rest of the interactions.
Joel get brutalized with a tire or a club. From
Yeah. It's like
the
you
offset.
go from face smashed in with a 3-iron to, oh look, they're happy a little bit. Here's a
Yeah.
little bit of like, some levity to the whole thing, and then we're back again. Let's go.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
guy was human once.
Yeah.
Instead of just a pile of bloody meat on the ground.
Plot hole, though, when it comes to that. All those infected were in the area, and it sounded like they had pretty routine and thorough infected like cleansing parties of the area and patrols that just see all that many infected just jump out of nowhere and catch everybody by surprise all of a sudden.
Well, to go back to another flashback when Tommy was teaching Ellie to like kind of like
How to use the bow
snipe
or whatever.
like snipe
Yeah,
shoot with the
use
Oh
the
rifle.
yeah,
rifle.
He's
sniper
like,
rifle. That's right.
it's like, well, they come through, that, sometimes throughout like the season or something, just to kind of be like, they roam in like packs, almost like wild animals, and they just like, they're on the move constantly. So, I mean,
Yeah.
some kind of came up so that it kind of could kind of see that still happening. But I see where you're
It's
going
like
with that.
one. I don't know how much you guys read the journal at all, but I felt it added to the story a lot. Like there was one of Ellie's journal logs that she was like, I'm in the basement of this house. I heard a horde come through, so I'm just gonna hang out here. And
I
then
remember
it's
reading
like,
that one as well.
It's like 2 days later, like a pack of survivors come through. Some of them didn't make it. 2 of them were kids, and I buried them. But it took like 3 days for that horde just to move through, and she basically just starved in the basement until it moved through.
Yeah, that definitely helped it give some insight to
Yeah.
some of the other stuff that you didn't see that was going on.
I'm kind of on the fence about that mechanic. They do add a lot of lore and backstory to like the world building. It was a little heavy-handed in this game. I think there was a lot of documents, and I didn't pay as much attention to them this second time around. I think I read all of them first playthrough, but I didn't have the patience to sit there and read every single document front to back this playthrough.
I thought if it was something that was interesting going on with like the wolves or the Seraphites, I would read it, or like Ellie or Abby centric. But like everything else, like where it was just someone like being like, oh, blah, blah, blah. If I could see a code written on it, I was like, all right, let me read that. All right, I got the code. I'm good. I could just
Save code. or
throw it
whatever.
away. Like,
I was the opposite. I read every single like little entry thing that we came across, just because then you saw some like kind of interesting thing. A lot of it was kind of the same. It's like we were barricaded in here for days. Someone went out to get something, never came back. I'm not going to let them take me, or I'm being hunted by those scars or the cultists and whatnot. And I hope I hope I'm safe from them. And then their body is just like
sacrificially
everywhere.
hung everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
You're like, oh, you didn't last long.
yeah, no, apparently not. Could have ended up like one of those people in the fucking TV station walking into that one and just seeing like dozens of people just strung up over the rafters. Like, oh shit, what are we getting into?
Yeah, it was kind of gnarly.
That whole thing just with the scars, the Seraphites, was just something else. And then you finally get to start hearing some more of that backstory. I'm like, all right, I see that. But no,
Yeah.
I just coming back to like the flashbacks, it was it was neat to see the progression, and especially to see how like the relationship between Joel and Ellie as the years went on, how it kind of started to dissipate between and how it got there. And then to come back to the, I originally said to actually see him admit to her, but not coming straight out. She had to go to him. It's like, you need to fucking tell me. You need to tell me the
Yeah.
truth or I'm fucking gone. What happened? And then she
When
was
she
like, all
stuck
right.
out to the hospital.
Yeah, and like found the records and everything about her. And her saying, I was supposed to die. That like
Yep.
she's saying like that would have been like if you would have came to me with that choice, that would have been my choice. And that is not what happened. So I'm not gonna leave, I'll stay, but fuck you. Never talk to me again. And we're like, oh, I don't blame you. It's like, oh, that's that hurts, but I mean, I can't blame her. Yeah, I get it.
I mean,
Yeah.
in essence, she's embodying Clark's feelings because she never got a choice.
Yeah, no, it really, yeah, that's pretty much it. That is not wrong,
dude. I knew as soon as we started talking about that it was going to come up about my like fucking rant at the end of the last review, but like also I'm just like, there's got to be a writer in their writer room that was just like, it's kind of fucked up that we didn't make this a choice. Like,
Anything on the Ellie side that we may have missed? Like any big sticking points?
one thing that I really fucking liked was when she got her revenge on Nora, like the medical girl who she was like, you had that chase scene, and then Nora was just stopped when there was the giant open hole in the floor because all the infected were down there. He's like, stop, wait, we can't, or we'll both die. And Ellie's like, joke's on you.
Yeah.
Fucking just runs and tackles her down into the depths. And then that's where it's like, I think that was the first big revenge part where you just have like a fucking pipe and you just like, you have to hit square to smash the shit out of her. And it's like, are you going to talk now? And she's not talking. You smash the shit out of her again. And then it cuts to her.
It just cuts to her talking to Dina.
Yeah, going back to Dina and Dina like dressing her wounds and stuff, and just like really somberly, she says like,
I made her talk.
I made her talk. And just like she didn't want to go through that, but that's where something like changed and clicked in Ellie's head.
There's something to be said about the big difference between running a cutscene and you having to physically hit the button to beat somebody to death.
I felt guilty about it sometimes. I was like, do I have to? Like,
yeah.
Really immerses you though by putting that function in there.
It makes you feel more of the consequence of the action.
Well, it's literally in your hands. It's not someone just playing it out for you. It's you playing it out.
It's not like if you don't press the button, something else happens. Like, it's not really in your hands, but like you still feel that sense.
Yeah, and I went online because after I was done playing through that scene, and I had to check. It's like, if you don't hit square to beat Nora, does anything happens? And people were like, I sat there for an hour, and it's just a straight shot on Ellie, and nothing happens until
who did that? Who just sat there for an hour?
Hey,
I gave it like maybe 30 seconds to a minute at one point.
Yeah, I wasn't sitting that long.
And that was it.
Who's like, no. Fucking Fred, what are you doing? We got to go to dinner. No. I'm still waiting. Things are going to change.
There's a hidden thing here. Joel come back from the grave.
It's like, I don't have that much patience.
I'll unlock Joel for everybody.
If I don't do this, then I'm going to be sitting here for a while. I got to progress. All right, looks like this bitch is getting her face beat in with a fucking pipe. Let's do this.
His wife comes in and just presses square. He divorces her.
Trying to really think if there's much else on like the Ellie side of it, but no, you can just see where it's like she just becomes more ruthless and just like it's her health. Hell hath no fury like a fucking Ellie scorned until you start playing as Abby. And then
Yeah,
that
I was gonna
starts.
say, and then you get to see like they're the same person.
Yeah, kind of different circumstances, but all in all, it's like
They're driven by the exact same thing.
Yep.
The
Yeah,
death of someone that they love.
Yeah, it's like that was like a father figure to me. Oh no, that was my actual dad. So everybody involved in it must die. Although I did like where we got to basically play the majority of like those 3 days in Seattle from seeing it from both sides.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Actually, I want to talk about that real quick. The first time you switch over to Abby, what was your honest reaction?
It's about time because I was spoiled.
This bitch is jacked.
I was excited. I was like, cool.
I was initially bummed out. I was like, ugh, now I have to play an entire segment with this girl.
To an extent, I was like, what is really like? Why are we doing this? But then in my mind, I'm like, well, there's going to be a reason because they at least had the flashbacks with Ellie. So I'm like, I hope they do that so we can find out why Abby wanted Joel dead so fucking bad, and then we got to find out why, and then it kind of, I think they did it really well because then I don't know about you guys, but after playing through with Abby a little bit, I'm like, initially I was pissed off at this chick because she bashed Joel's fucking head in. And then the last thing you saw of her before learning her story was her holding Tommy down on the ground at gunpoint. And then after playing a little bit, I started to see things from her side. And it's like, now this is kind of being a little more difficult because, now she's being hunted and she was doing hunting. I don't know. It became conflicted a little bit as we got more involved in Abby's story.
If at one point either Abby or Ellie took the high road, this wouldn't be a game.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
if at one point they both stooped to the level of revenge where they needed revenge and they let it drive them to literally drive and not think about everyone else. They're like, okay, like I need to do this. Like, yeah, like Ellie fucking gave up literally everything that she had to go after Abby, and then we'll talk about the ending. But like,
Yeah. There's a lot of consequences on both sides for their tunnel vision on revenge, though.
Yeah.
Although one positive in the beginning of playing as Abby is you got to play fetch with the dog, and that made me very.
that was fun.
That made me very excited. I'm like, if I throw it like 10 times, do I get an achievement? Just like, oh, good boy, or something like that.
Did you? Okay, so I did that the first time, played it, and then just walked away. This playthrough, I threw the ball after a couple times out of bounds. Did any of you guys
over
do
the
that?
fence, and the dog just sits there
Oh.
staring. And the worst part about it is when you leave to go, I was standing over the ball and it wouldn't let me pick it back up and throw it back into the fence. I was like, oh, I feel like a dick now.
You should.
Oh, they
Yeah,
even have
whatever.
dialogue for it too, Steve. They're like, "Oh, sorry, girl."
Yeah.
Like-
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That sucks.
man.
What I thought about playing with the dog was I was like, thank God I don't have to fight these things now. Because shooting the
Yeah.
dogs was not fun.
Oh no, that was probably one of the downsides of which that could be in gameplay, but I guess we're talking about it now too. Is like you got to kill the dogs, and then also I found out you can Molotov the dogs, and that made me feel worse. It's like, oh, scorched puppy, that's bad.
Never Molotoved them. Always just killed them with the melee. Whatever I had on me for melee, it was just like, oh, yep.
Oh no, a couple puppers blew up a bit in my playthrough.
That's fair.
No, it did make me more sad realizing like as later on in Abby's story and you're going to the aquarium, you realize like that one dog was Alice, and you bonded with that
Yeah.
dog for hours, and you're like,
It took
oh no.
it took me so long to realize that, like, because I remember playing as Ellie and getting to the aquarium and killing Alice and being like, okay, there's dogs here. Where's the rest of the dogs? And I thought it was weird that there was only one. And then playing as Abby, like it took me a long time to put that together. I was like, oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
That's the real heartbreak of this game.
Yeah. It really, honestly, yeah, it is. It's kind of like the
It's
same
not
thing.
the
It's like,
death of Joel, it's the death of Alice.
yeah. It's like the people fucking suck. They make their own choices, but the poor dogs, man.
Just wanted that squid.
Yeah, no, he just wanted the squid. Little squid. Kirby has a squid. It's maybe more sad. It's like
I
you
threw the
have one of
squid out of
those.
bounds too.
You're a dick. You're such a dick.
Right on to Ellie's knife.
Yeah.
Right onto a pipe bomb.
But I think being able to play through as Abby really kind of did give some insight. And then when you were leading Lev through the one building after you fall off the bridge, and they're like, "Oh, careful, spores, mask." I'm like, "Why the fuck do you need a mask?" Oh yeah, it's Abby, not Ellie. Oops.
Right. Yeah. There's a few of those moments where Abby, they on Ellie's play, like as you're playing as Ellie, Abby just looks like a completely heartless, terrible person. And as you start playing as Abby, you kind of realize that, like, yeah, she's a terrible person, but then she's on this like redemption and revenge arc
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah, so I started to like side with Abby a little bit the more and more that I played her, and I was like, okay, like I kind of like lean towards more to what she's doing than what Ellie is doing, because Ellie is just like, I'm going to murder everybody, like just everyone, anyone involved, like. And Abby's more like, I'm trying to save these people and like redeem myself as a human being and like get fucked by Owen with my pancake titties and then like run away with Owen. But yeah, it's the whole game is like a moral fucking nightmare.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, just seeing her interaction with people, it's like, man, like Abby, she really busts some balls. She's a real dick. I really like this girl.
Speaking of real dick and Abby, funny thing that I thought this story was I knew about the whole like trans thing that like happened when this game launched. And for a while, I was like kind of hoping it was Abby, and that like
Oh
the
my
thing
God.
she was hiding from Owen was that. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be hilarious.
Surprised that was my ass the whole
'Cause I
time.
was like, she looks like a dude.
It's the arms, man. She's fucking
I know.
jacked.
They even mentioned it in the one like flashback for Abby, where like when her and Owen are still dating, and they're like on the Ferris wheel or whatever. She's like, "Oh, I put up 350 on the bench the other day," and he's like, "What the fuck?"
I mean, that was the first thing I noticed, like, after Jesse got a hole in his fucking head, and she was just standing there, I'm like, holy shit, this chick is fucking ripped. God
Oh, you didn't
damn.
notice that the first time around when she killed
Did
Joel?
you notice
No.
the subtle differences, like when you were like opening gates and stuff between Ellie and Abby?
Abby
Well,
could open bigger gates and like move bigger shit all the time.
and she would just be fine. She wouldn't be struggling with it. Where
Yeah.
Ellie's just like, "Oh my god, I'm going to die doing this." Abby's just like, "Meh."
I mean, even
She-Hulk.
the one description
Smash.
when Tommy, who I did not expect to live, we're jumping ahead, but he's like, and I got information from someone I traded someone with about a girl moving with someone else and who's built like an ox. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh god. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, the chick is jacked. I mean, she put in her work. Either that or she was on some good old TRT. Fucking Mel just calling her out. It's like after she's like trying to come full
Yeah.
circle on the redemption arc, she's like, you're a fucking terrible, horrible person.
Yeah,
I
she's
know
like,
who you are.
You're a piece of shit.
That's it. Literally calls you, you're a piece of shit.
Like, I know you're having a real bad time with this, but you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's like, oh, all right. And it's like, wow, Mel's kind of a bitch.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Mel had one of those faces that I just didn't like.
No.
She's
Her
just-
eyes were real weird to me. Like her eyes were huge
Like
and like
doll's
sunken
eyes.
in.
Like
It
a
was just like-
doll's eyes,
It was weird.
cold and black.
Oh, fun fact, when I was looking stuff up, this falls under sound. I had to think of Ralph.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna cover that later.
Yeah, I had to think about Miss Ashley Birch. I'm like, oh, Ralph.
Isn't she
But-
Ellie?
No,
No.
Ashley
It's Mel.
Birch is Mel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm like, oh wow, all right. It's like I feel bad for that unborn child, but Mel, you're kind of a bitch.
There's one less of her genes coming into the world now, though. So good job on Ellie.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know what though? At the same time, there's a whole lot of like dumbass unprotected sex. I mean, not that they're gonna have great protection, but like,
still,
come on.
I mean, it's
Like-
honestly, it's 5 years after the pandemic. You can't find condoms, so like
Well, that's what
pull-out
I'm saying.
methods
I
feel
know
like
they
your
don't-
best bet.
Right.
yeah.
But it's
And-
like the fact that it was Dina and Mel, I felt like that like they weren't trying.
And then at the same time, with the sex scene between Owen and Abby, I'm like, that must have smelled really fucking bad. Do you know what? She just found him out of nowhere after traveling how many days and going through
They were
like,
used to
rain
that
and
shit.
everything.
Sewer.
It's just that had to smell bad. And with every slap, you're just wafting it up in the air. You are not going to unsmell that for at least a week. And Mel's going to come through. It's like, oh, God, I know we're by the bay, but holy shit.
Smells like poor man's waffles in here.
All those pancakes.
My batter's too runny.
Smells like bog water and fish.
just saying that scene stood out. It's like, oh,
Did
all right,
stand
yeah,
out.
we're going here. We are going here.
What did you guys think of like Yara and like that whole thing
Oh, with like Yara and Lev like escaping and whatnot.
and saving Abby?
You only got one arm, Yara. That was brutal. That was fucking brutal when she got like attacked. Hammer to the elbow. It's like,
It's
oh,
like
fuck.
it's just saying, yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, clip her wings. I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
what?
I was like, oh god.
They just
That-
hold her down and just start smashing her fucking arm. It's like, oh shit.
Clip her wings. Like,
That fucking cult was like way out somewhere. And it's like you're walking through the forest and all of a sudden you hear a whistle. You're like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Here come the arrows.
I don't think like anyone should have had a problem with like the whole trans thing for Lev in that. Like,
No.
they weren't like super okay. So like they followed all the guidelines of how not to be upfront and offensive about it. It's like there was a heartfelt conversation about it where it was just informative and it was just like hey, he just feels this way, and since then I've accepted him and we have moved on.
Yeah,
Right.
And in the
Like-
very beginning of it, Abby just didn't give a shit anyway. It's just like,
she was-
did you hear what they called me? Yeah. Do you want to know why?
nope.
Do you want me to ask you? No. Okay. I
Yeah,
won't.
like no, I won't. Like
Yeah.
That's fine. It's like, and in my mind, I'm like, well, I kind of hope we find out why, and then, oh, okay, well, that's why was the lead now left. All right.
I kind of knew like right away. I was like, okay, why would they be pissed off at a boy for shaving his head when I've seen tons of scars with their head shaved already? Like,
Yeah.
oh, he was originally a girl.
Fights.
Yeah, whatever. Scars, fuck off. They're the same thing.
I think so. As a cult, because let's be real, that's exactly what it was.
And
Oh,
from
yeah.
your experience, Harry,
Yes,
From your
Let me tell you.
experience in cults.
I think they recruited way too many people for how outlandish some of their rules and lifestyle added up to be.
no, you just get the craziest ones, and that's how it thrives. Because then the crazy ones will just do whatever it takes to keep it going. You know,
Yep.
Dude, that community was huge, though. I
Oh.
think it was bigger than the Wolves, in my opinion.
They said
Well,
they had a
maybe.
couple thousand.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it,
they
it-
had two full towns. Worth.
it probably
Yeah.
rivaled the
The
Wolves.
Wolves just had the stadium.
Yeah, you can fit a lot of
but
fucking
they were,
people
like
in a stadium.
heavily. They were like
They had the
heavily
forward operating
armored,
bases too.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
forward operating bases. And Isaac's a piece of shit.
I
agree.
was happy to see him die, and especially by the hand of Yara. The
Yeah.
hand of Yara. Get it? 'Cause she only had one.
Jesus Christ.
But it was like that caught me out of nowhere. It's like when that gunshot went off, I'm like, oh, did one of the other wolves like turn on him because he's like
Yeah, I
working
thought
on
the
an
same
Abbey?
thing.
And it's
Yeah.
like no. And then when it showed Yara, and right before she turned into Swiss cheese, I'm like, That was pretty fucking dope. All right, time to run. Let's go.
Yara's death was pretty unceremonious too. There was a lot of unceremonious deaths on
Yeah,
both
but
sides.
I think at least Yara's, you felt there was still some justice in there, because like just like the whole time, like from the first time you met Isaac, I was like, oh, this guy's a real fucking piece of work. And then to actually, what gave me some joy is to watch him die before the end of the game. Was like, all right, cool. I mean, I feel bad Yara went out like that, but she went out like a fucking Spartan. Good for her.
Yeah, she went out fighting.
Though I will say, while we're still kind of around like Abby's story, like when you're chasing the quote unquote unknown sniper, I'm like, this dude is like fucking OP'd. It's like, how is he like so goddamn good taking out people like that well? And then when you're trying to, I almost second guess myself, because when you're chasing him and you went down through the terminal and there was like a door in front of you, and then I saw a hallway, I'm like, oh, well, let me go down the hallway. Maybe I can get a sneak on him. And we try to push through. Then Manny comes up and he's like, hey, I don't know. We got a dead. Like, did I choose the wrong door? It's like, does he maybe die later? Was there maybe a way for him not to die? And I'm going to assume, no, he's going to die anyway. And then it come to find out it was fucking Tommy. I'm like, ah, makes sense now.
Yeah.
But I will say, tying Abby in with the island, the village of Yara and Lev, going through that, I thought I was just gonna kind of be annoyed, like this is part of day 3 too. We're just going way out to this other island and whatnot. But to kind of see like the ending, or like the big battle going on between the wolves and the Seraphites, it was
Scars.
like, yeah. I was like, it's like, all right, this is pretty fucking badass, especially like while you're trying to escape the island down through the fire.
On the horse.
Yeah. On the horse.
It's one of several like set pieces in this game that I wanted to touch on.
In gameplay.
I mean, it's on the cinematic side of things.
So graphics.
Sure, it doesn't matter. That's fine. We'll talk about it in graphics.
There's going to be a
Save
lot
it for the end after we're all wrapped up.
Yeah.
Stop recording.
Though I will say, at least playing through by that point, I was like just on the edge of my seat in anticipation, waiting to finally have the meeting of going through Ellie's
The
3
Juggalos.
days, and yeah, whoop whoop, and Abby's 3 days, and them finally like getting back to that point where we left off. I'm like, I just want to get there. I just want to see this. I want to see what happens with that. And then yeah, they finally fucking meet up again, and holy shit, that took me a while to get through after that. It's like, well, wasn't this whole beginning of the game like for Ellie's revenge? Ellie just got revenge like fucking 7 times in a row on me, like in the back of the theater. That's not that's not the end of the
Ew.
game. Yeah. Just yeah, that one took me a while, which that would be some part of gameplay. But yeah, once the 2 stories finally merged back together, I was it's like about damn time. I've been waiting for this for like 12 hours.
Do we want to move beyond that point then? On to Santa Barbara?
We can. I will say, at least at the very end of that point, I thought Tommy was dead.
Yeah, I
Took an
thought
arrow-
he was dead too.
He took an arrow to the knee, and then it looked like he was just like shot in the back of the fucking head and was done. Like, all right, well, she
Yeah,
got
I
the 2
thought
brothers.
he was shot in the head too. Like when he showed up at Ellie and Dina's house, like I was trying to get like a good look on his face because I thought he had like some type of damage or like a missing eye or something.
Yeah, he had a missing eye. Like from it went through, I guess, and didn't completely kill him, but he only had one eye on that scene because he was only looking around with the one, and the other was just looking fleshy. You know, I thought it was still kind of neat to see. I was wondering where the story was going to go when you were just playing as Ellie and going around the farm, and Dina had the baby, because you can thank Lev for that, because Abby was about to slit Dina's fucking throat, and she's like, "Don't, she's pregnant." Abby's good, and then it turns to Lev, Abby. And then just like the look on her face, like, this fucking kid. All right, let me try to be good about this, and just lets them go. And then you're on a farm and you're wrangling sheep and dancing with your girlfriend to some records and whatnot. And then the full-blown panic attack was just like,
that shit was one of the better jump scares.
yeah, it was. I did not see that coming at all.
It was like lightning strike, and I was like, bah!
Yeah, it's like, oh, fuck. It's like, well, I could imagine why you would still be having like, some really, really
Fucking
hard
PTSD.
PTSD. Yeah, exactly. It's like, holy shit. And then just the comforting nature of Dina. It's like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's good. You all right? It's good. It's like, I don't know. Then you really started to see some of the dynamic between those two. And that was a little chubby baby. That baby's eating good. Little chubby baby man.
Well, he's not eating pancakes, so
No,
he's
no, he's
getting some
not.
good meals.
Yeah, exactly.
He's eating waffles.
Yeah. In the morning, I'm having waffles.
All right, I think it's a natural point to jump to Santa Barbara then.
Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So at least at this point, yeah, with Tommy coming and saying, it's like, we found her. Let's go. And it's like, all right, let's go. I was kind of hopeful because with Abby finding like the old barracks and then the radio and making contact, part of me is like, is this a trap or is this something where they were asking like specifics of who was leading, the people in Salt Lake and whatnot? And then she gave the name saying my dad. It's like, well, was it still bullshit or not?
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was like, okay, are the Fireflies actually around and she just got ambushed by somebody else, or was it them? I couldn't really tell.
That's the question I had too. I was like, well, I mean, because there's no way they would have got to the house that quickly from her using the radio, right?
Unless they were like next door,
like
they
They were
Right.
waiting out. Yeah, because then they could have already known and been down there and knew the frequencies, and maybe they're just listening to those frequencies, waiting for someone to use it and maybe find
Yeah.
it and then ambush. I honestly think they're
set up a trap.
Yeah, I think like the conversation was legit. Like there may have actually been like the Fireflies out there, but the Rattlers.
the Rattlers.
Like they were privy to the actual like the call signs and like the frequencies and just used that to jump them. I thought Lev was dead at that point. I'm like, oh, that's the end of him. He's not coming back. It's like, that's a large man to just smashing a small child. And I got sad because like, oh, Lev's learning to have like almost like a sense of humor. It's like learning what other people not in a cult grew up with.
Right.
Like when he cursed for the first time.
Yeah.
Fuck
Fuck this
you.
place. I've never heard a Scar curse before. It's like, that was my first time. It's like, oh, look at you. You're growing up so fast.
You're getting it.
Yeah, that's
You're acting
right.
like a real human.
Yeah, trust me, kid. You're going to be saying that a lot. Fuck this. It's like, yeah, fuck this.
That I knew that moment was coming up where they grab Abby when you climb out of the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was throwing pipe bombs out right before I walked out to see if it would have any kind of effect.
Oh, that's
obviously not. But
because you played through the first, now I get it. It's not just like, oh, I have a feeling this is going to happen. It's like, no, you knew it happened. So, let's see if I can actually like deter this. Not so much.
no, it's fine. Absolutely not.
Yeah, Lev didn't make it, guys. Abby gets captured by the Rattlers, and then Ellie almost gets captured by the Rattlers and suffers like a near mortal wound.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
that scene was so fucking badass.
It was a good scene.
That was awesome. They caught her down and the guy's like fucking with her, like, oh, look, or you're gonna get bit, something else, and she just pulls him, throws him to the fucking, strung up, infected, and then just grabs his silenced fucking machine gun and blows the dude's leg off. It's like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great scene. It's it shows how much of a survivor she is no matter what. So then she pretty much just goes and clears out the Rattler base like it's no one's fucking business. Like it's super easy, just walk through. And
Why did you think they were keeping the infected on chains.
Like guard dogs.
Yeah, like guard dogs.
Because if one of the infected started freaking out and saw something,
They were freaking out because of them, though.
yeah, but they knew they would freak out because of them. So if they like heard a noise or something, I think
Because they
just
wanted
had
a
them.
fun game mechanic that you could shoot the chains and let them go.
I didn't even try shooting them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you
I
totally
thought about
can.
it like late, like by the time there's like just the 2 clickers, and I had already cleared out everybody else. I was like, I could probably shoot those, and I was like, yeah, it's a little too late to deal with them. I'll just let them go.
I told you what would happen, Anthony.
Like it would have just like if I would have shot him at that point, it would have just been me dealing with them anyway. So I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you were seeing them kind of like, I was wondering what was going on, like when they were like, oh, we got a real live one here or something else, like they got fight in them. It's like, the fuck is going on? And of course it's just like, oh, well, it's female, so it is probably going to get really rapey at some point.
Yeah,
And
I
when
didn't think that was infected at first.
No, and then when you were sneaking through like the little train yard thing, I found one of those like little journal entry things, and they were like, "We're not picking your tomatoes anymore. We're coming back for you," or something else. I'm like, "Oh, they're just like enslaving people into it." And then you see like them leading the line of live humans, like all shackled up into it. It's like, oh fuck, this is pretty fucked up right here.
Yeah, I like how you spark the revolution there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just
They're
like
like, she's
go,
big.
and they're like, they got out, and they're like, oh my god, they're armed.
Yeah.
I think you pretty much martyred like 90% of them at that point, though.
Yeah.
Like,
So they didn't have money to people to go through.
Give the prisoners. There's still a few that they can get a little vengeance out of.
Where's Abby?
Down, she's at the pillars. If she's not dead already, I'm like, oh fuck, what are the pillars? And then you get down there, it's just like the old docks, like the dock supports, and just people like basically just tied up there, left to die and whatnot. And
crucified.
Like, yeah, and like this is bad. This is really bad. And just keep looking around, and then you fucking finally find Abby. And of course, they had to make it where she's been up there for a while, and she is no longer has the right to bear arms. She's like Ellie's size, so it's almost a fair fight at the end. I'm like,
yeah,
they had to dial Abby back just so that way it's not like this is impossible because this girl will fucking, just snap me while you're bleeding out from your fucking side from your
Abby
wound.
would have destroyed like full strength Abby versus like injured Ellie at that time. Like there's no,
especially depending on how you spec.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it happen once already, and Abby would have fucking killed her in the first place, and then that just,
true.
She let her go on that one. But just that whole ending fight, I was just conflicted on the whole one. And but even before that, where like she cuts Abby down, and Abby gets Lev down, and Abby says nothing else to Ellie except, "Come on, the boats are this way." Just like, I'm not doing this.
You.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not doing this. We need to go. And then she loads, Lev into the boat, and he's just laying there basically fucking lifeless. And then Ellie's like, I can't let you go. And Abby's like, no, I'm not doing it. And then Ellie goes up to Lev and holds a knife to his throat. And
it's like, I'll make you fight me.
Yeah, it's like he has no part of this. It's like, you brought him into this. And then Abby's like, all right, let's go. This is how we go. And it's just like, it's, you have to take all the melee combat that you learned, and there's no prompts or anything else. And just that fight, it felt like it went on for so long. And
they're just brutalizing the hell out of each other too. Like, it's just knockdown, drag out. Like, it's like that scene from They Live where the two guys are just beating the fucking piss out of each other. Oh, you dirty motherfucker!
Now I was smart because I'm thinking in my head, because I'm like, this is obviously like the end of the game. And as soon as she walked up to the boats, I'm like, so that's what like the opening scene is from. Like anytime before you actually start the game, like loaded up or something, you just see a boat floating, tied up. I'm like, I haven't seen that yet. And then you walk up over the beach, and there it is. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Damn, I
And
didn't even
then
put that together until you just said it.
oh yeah, and I'm wondering, it's like, well, how is this going to end with like a resolution that I feel okay about? I mean, it's basically, is it going to end up that Ellie kills Abby and then Ellie bleeds out and dies, and then that's the end of the game? Like, how is this going to go? And then that was something just like, it's where, Abby bites off half of Ellie's like pinky and ring finger on her left hand, and you know it didn't click then like what was
Nope.
going on, but you just saw when she was fighting and she had the flashback to bloody, basically dead Joel, and then after like Abby like bit her fingers off, she had the flash to happy Joel just sitting there playing a guitar, and then that was like the end of her nightmare right there. Like that's where it
Yeah.
clicked out for her, and she was like, I'm finally, it's like, I'm not having just the terrible visions. That was like a happy vision. And then she just breaks down and cries. And I'm just like,
Let's
my,
Abby up, like doesn't drown her.
no, it's, yeah, because she basically like had Abby dead. Like
Yeah, she
Abby
had
was
her dead to
like,
rights for sure.
yeah, and just let her go. And then just like, just go, just take them. And then Abby says nothing, just gets in the boat and leaves, and Ellie's just sitting there in the water, just sobbing uncontrollably. I'm like, fucking A, man. It's like, it's God. And I'm saying this out loud, and Morgan's out in the kitchen. She's like, you good? I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like, this is fucking heavy. This is so heavy right now.
She comes in, Steve's crying, dick in hand, just I don't know what to feel.
I told you to get the camera out of my living room, god damn it. That ending was just nuts. I don't know. What about your take before we go to like the final part?
It wouldn't have been as dramatic impact or I want to say as rewarding ending to this game, but I kind of wish they would have just sat down and talked, because I think these two would have been best friends if they could have hashed it out.
They're not wrong.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I don't think it could have ended any other way. And I mean, even if they both died, I think that would have taken away from the potential of an ending. I think this was the one of the better outcomes. For wrapping up a good story.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting that Abby now has more of a future ahead of her than Ellie does. I kind of feel like that if they're going to make a third one, it can't be about Ellie. I think Abby would be
Part 3
if they were going to do it.
And they've outlined the entire story already so far. Actually,
I didn't think they were actually moving forward at all.
I looked. I had to look up after I was done, and actually, the one main writer, he's like, yeah, we actually have like a whole story outline for part 3.
So did they say if it was?
No, it's nothing else has moved forward around
gotcha.
that. He's just saying that just like the story itself has basically been outlined and written.
I mean, that would be a good way to kind of do this series if they wanted to continue it. It's like Joel tags out for Ellie, and then Ellie tags out for Abby, and then if they went forward, Abby would play but then tag out for somebody else, and
For
just kind of keep that
something. Yeah.
that line of thinking going.
Yeah. Sorry, but as you were going with yeah, I think that is probably not the best outcome, but I mean, obviously, because they were both real fucked up and in a bad spot, but for the story itself.
Yeah, I just think Abby actually has a future because she still has Lev and she has places to go and a mission. Ellie has nothing.
Yeah.
I think she's going to rebuild the family with Dina.
I don't know.
You think she's going to Jackson?
I don't know that Dina went to Jackson. There's no indication that Dina went to Jackson, dude. Like, Ellie gets back to
Jesse's
that house.
parents were there.
Yeah, that would be probably the only reason she would go back to Jackson, is because that's where the little chubby baby, his grandparents are.
Yeah, but it depends. I mean, you know, like there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I'm just saying, in general, like the only thing Ellie can do is look for Dina, and is that more compelling than Abby looking for the fireflies in terms of a game.
All right. Yeah.
And like I'm not fully convinced that Ellie even wants that family life.
I think that getting to that final scene though, where she walks back up to the farm, and it still didn't kind of like almost register, like the where the first thing you see is her, 7/10 of a hand that's still left.
Mhm.
And then walking up, and you start walking through the house, and it's completely empty, and then you see it's like Dina kept to her word and said, I'm not doing this again. I can't fucking wait for you. And she didn't wait. And you're going through, and then you find the guitar, and you finally start playing the guitar for the last time.
And she can't
And
play it.
and as you're strumming, like you go to hit like a chord, and it just doesn't sound right. And it still didn't click in my mind yet. And then after the second one, I'm like, oh fuck, she can't play it anymore. And that guitar, at least like that part of it, was one of the biggest things that was still kind of like holding her to Joel. And then she just rests up the guitar, and that's where it's like, I have to let it go. I have to kind of move on, like something like that. That's the last piece of, something like that I still held on to. And you just see her walking away. I'm like, that's a good fucking way to kind of like sever, no pun intended, sever that relationship, or at least that those old feelings that she's still holding on to kind of move on.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was an amazing ending for Ellie, and I think that's I think that's where they should stop with her. She doesn't need or deserve a happy ending. She's just as terrible a person as Abby.
Good point, though. Why would Dina take Ellie back when she's missing fingers now, though?
She's still got 3.
Yeah,
okay, you're right.
Yeah. And besides, she only lost the pinky and ring finger. Is that your method, Harry? Because if that's the way, you really got to reevaluate your technique.
Not even that dexterous.
No. Yeah. Take my strong hand.
Oh, man.
Fucking A.
Do we want to wrap up story there, though, gents? Well, let's lose an appendage and talk some gameplay.
Gameplay.
All right, let's talk some gameplay then.
Yeah, there was a lot of game to be played.
Number one, I like the slight differences in items you can build between Abby and Ellie. It gave them their own unique feel to the gameplay.
I'm glad they did that.
Me too.
I didn't like the fact that I couldn't make crossbow arrows, though. I felt very limited.
Oh, I got you. You had it. Yeah, you had
as
to find
Abby. You had to find them.
Well, you can make the explosive ones.
Not as Abby.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you had to find the manual for it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
That plus between that and with Abby's crafting, like I didn't use it for a good bit after I first found it, but that hunting pistol was fucking
dude,
so
that thing
good.
doesn't work.
And then it was like, oh, by the way, you can make ammo for this now. I'm like, excuse me, what?
Oh yeah,
Fucking
that's like all I used those items for. It was just like, okay, yeah, like this is going to be like my
Just keep
infinite
this at full ammo, please.
Yeah. Although I will say it's like as you're going through, because like as playing as Ellie, like one of my favorite things to use was the bow, because I loved like the stealth approach. And
Right.
playing through with Abby for a little bit, I'm like, it's kind of stinks I don't have that. I'll make it work. You can like craft the silencer for the handgun or whatever. And then she finds a crossbow, and audibly I was like, ooh, a crossbow. Like I very much enjoyed that. But yeah, the differences between the two were at least it wasn't the exact same, and it gave you some variety between the two playthroughs.
See, I was all about the fire shotgun with Abby.
Yeah, I like that too.
That was dope.
Yeah, I didn't really mess around with that hunting pistol much.
Oh, you missed out.
Yeah.
That was your
Shame.
second playthrough?
Yeah, I didn't like the limitation of one bullet.
Oh, you didn't need more than one bullet.
That
You
one
just needed
bullet
to
was
hit
enough.
something center mass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
like you didn't need a headshot. Like if you hit them, they were dead.
especially when you can put the scope on it. Ew. Fucking ew.
I'm going to say from the first game to the second game, I think this is the biggest area of improvement in general. I really honestly, I think that the gameplay in 2 is incredible, and I shit all over the gameplay in the first one. But
Did
I
you?
actually, yes, I'm just saying in general, I think
Yeah.
this game is actually really fun to play. Like anytime I got to an open area where I saw that there was going to be enemies and stuff, I was like, fuck yeah, let me figure out how I'm going to tackle this and fucking go for it and execute. And I didn't feel like the game was trying to play against me. I didn't feel like there was too much like pistol wobble. It felt like both characters, both, Abby and Ellie, there was no like pistol wobble, like they were just like fucking newbies holding a weapon for the first time and anything like that. Like it played so much more. You could tell that this was based off of more of a polished Uncharted engine than it was previously.
Did anybody did you have like certain go-to weapons for like one or the other?
Yeah, so for Ellie, I pretty much only exclusively used the heavy weapons, I'll call them. Like just the bow and the shotgun, pretty much.
Gotcha. I avoided that hunting rifle. I just found that annoying. Except when in desperation I had like almost no ammo and anything else. That's the only time I used that shit.
It was very expensive to upgrade, and it was very slow. And like to get the breathing thing was really far down into Ellie's like skill tree. So I was just like, I'm not putting all of this fucking points into this thing to just see if it's worth it. But yeah, that's what I liked for Ellie. And then for Abby, the hunting rifle, or hunting pistol rather, pretty much exclusively once I got the manual where I could make the ammo.
I did like the fact that she had like more of kind of like a machine gun too. Like that was a nice little change because Ellie had nothing like that.
Yeah,
Right.
It was not super effective though.
No.
I'll be honest.
I mean, compared to like definitely some of the other weapons, it wasn't. It's just more or less it was that ammo seemed more plentiful, but only because it took more to really put things down unless you were like on with your headshots. And if you have like a small horde coming at you, or you're being attacked from multiple angles, you really didn't have like too much time to make that happen.
Just to, I don't know, portray how my gameplay experience went a little bit. So I played on New Game Plus just to kind of rebuild. Like I wanted to platinum this game, so kind of playing on that New Game Plus to really max out all the stats and manuals and all the abilities. So not only did I increase the difficulty, but when you play on the Plus, it increases it a further like 50%.
Yeah.
So I don't know what difficulty I don't remember what difficulty I played on, but it was significantly higher. And I remember my supplies were few and far between on this run. Like my first playthrough, I could find supplies and ammunition in every single drawer I opened. On this playthrough, it was like 1 out of every 5 or 6 drawers that I opened. So I had far less to work with, but I had all the abilities unlocked, and I don't know. I just had everything from the first playthrough, so that made it kind of, I guess, balanced out in a way. But my first playthrough was very stealthy. This one was very aggressive and in the face. I was just kind of steamrolling with like just mowing everything down with the guns. I wouldn't try to get like the stealth kills, but I kind of did a guns blazing type of playthrough.
Harry was rootin' tootin'.
It was fun. It's a completely different style of play too.
I bet.
It almost felt like a completely different game when it came to gameplay.
I did half and half, and I appreciated that both excelled. Like you could do like super stealth, and it was very effective and very fun to do. But also, Harry, like at some point, I was like, okay, I have max ammo on everything. I was like, I'm going in guns blazing. I'm just going to take on everything head first. Like, let's go. And it was an amazing experience there too.
It significantly cuts down on the time in this game.
I bet it does. Yeah.
Because you shoot one gun and everything comes to you, and then you just clear out an area or die. It's
like one or the other. You win or die.
When you platinumed this, did you actually get every trophy?
I did not platinum yet. I still have 4 items I got to go back and get.
I was about to ask,
because
did you
they
actually
added
platinum?
2 trophies that are not required for platinuming.
They added, you said?
Yes. Yeah, when they came out, when they added the grounded difficulty as well as the cheats, they added in 2 more trophies.
The grounded is in its own bracket, separate
Yeah.
from where the platinum is. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
And if you use cheats, they do not block the trophies.
But yeah, no, I still have 4 items. I followed a guide to pick up all the items, but there's still some that like are like right before a sequence or like a cutscene, and if you take a couple steps too far, it like cuts you off.
And you're
And
done.
then you have, and then I could reload a whole chapter ago, but I was like, nah, I'll just
I'll
moving
just play
forward.
the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Well, no, I can go back and choose the chapters now that I'm done the game. But
Oh, right.
unfortunately, while I was in the middle of a playthrough, you can only play chapters up to that point.
Even if you're in New Game Plus?
Yeah, it was.
That's
it was,
weird.
Huh.
I would have had to reload my old save file to be able to choose chapter again, and I didn't want to. It was weird. I didn't
That's
like that.
really fucking weird.
Yeah,
I
you
agree.
think once you get to unlock New Game Plus, you could just play any chapter.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
would
like
be
you
like a
change in the
cumulative.
story or anything. It's so I still have to go back and pick up 4 items. I just haven't had the time or ambition.
Unless loading a chapter uses like whatever your current equipment and everything is, because then you wouldn't want to like load a chapter, farm like material, and then go back into your regular game with a full loadout.
Side note, I did have all the cheats and styles and all that jazz unlocked, and I was playing around with a lot of that stuff. There's some unique graphical settings you can put in.
Yeah. Do
Yeah, it's
those
like-
only go in photo mode or while you're playing?
While you're playing, and some of them are
Really?
barely you can see what's going on. Like
Yeah,
some of them are
really.
like the 16-bit. play a couple minutes of that and tell me you
What?
don't have like a headache.
You didn't look at all the stuff, Clark?
No, I didn't.
Because
After this, load up the game and check out all the different cheats and art styles you can have for the game. Like it gives you like an example image of every one, and some of them are nuts.
I'll have to look
yeah.
it up online. I already have
The
it,
one looks like
off
fucking
my...
Tron. It's like very dark, but it's all like neon colors and stuff. It's
Interesting.
nuts.
Some are like cell shading, some are 16-bit, some are like I think there's an 8-bit and a 16-bit.
I think
So-
you're right.
Yeah. And there's different. You can play with different audio tracks too. Like you can play with like an 8-bit and a 4-bit version of the audio for the game.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It was, so I played around with a little of that. The visual things I don't recommend though. Like it's cool to look at for like 30 seconds, but
That's
but,
something to look up and it's like, hey, that's different. That's kind of neat. Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
no, base game is fine graphically. I don't know why they needed to do all of this other jazz.
Look at this cool shit that we can do that no one will appreciate.
I mean, we'll appreciate it. We just don't use it.
No, for this, I definitely went on the side of stealthy as much as I can, but there were a few times after trying to go through, you know what, I died here. This isn't really going to work, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this differently. And that's where it was like, oh, this motherfucker, they all just come from here anyway. So if I just start shooting them in one area and they start filtering through, I'll just throw a fucking pipe bomb or Molotov or something else down this way, and we'll just go about this differently, which I think is something that I can appreciate. Harry going from, you know, I'm going to be, you know, as unnoticeable as possible to like, fuck you, bitch, here I am, bring it on, you're gonna die.
That's how I start every day at work.
Yeah, just walking up to the front doors.
I think I spent half of my playtime just watching things path.
Oh, like
like-
back and forth. It's like,
Yeah, just eyeballing their paths and figuring out where to attack from and all of that shit. Like, because
And that's why Joe died from a lot of dogs.
yeah.
no, they
They're
weren't
pathing
like that.
closer and closer.
Where's
I
your
gave up
ball,
on the
doggy?
dogs
Where's your ball?
immediately.
Joe's running around looking for a ball. Why is this thing attacking me? I'm just trying to play with it.
When like they showed you or taught you how to like avoid the dogs and like the scent trail and stuff like that, I tried it like twice and I was like, bag it. When there's dogs, I'm just going guns blazing. I
Yeah,
did not try with dogs.
Same.
It was
it's
too
like,
difficult.
I'll try to run. There's a few times where It's like you're like hiding out like there's like the one house where you can run up the stairs. There's a few different rooms. You can jump out onto like the little roof and come back. And they just keep fucking sending them. And I'm like, I'm just going in a goddamn circle and I'm trying to sneak through all this and just get it done. Fuck it. Fuck it. Let's just go jump off the roof. Here's this bitch. I'm going to stab you. I'm going to try to choke you out. The dog sees me. Let's shoot the fucking dog. They see that. And here we go. I can't. There's a time for action and a time for diplomacy, and diplomacy is dead.
So one thing I heard nobody talk about yet, and I want to get your opinions on, is the trip mines on Ellie. Did you guys use those effectively at all?
Never used those. I used them one time and they didn't work right.
I used them probably half a dozen times and killed myself every time.
Oh, for the trip mines, the only time I really used that was when I forget what they were. Yeah, basically the boomer. Like when that thing would start running at me, if I had enough like distance, I would put down a couple trip mines. That's probably
she
the
was
only.
So slow deploying them though. Like I would be like, click, and then she would get up so slow that the thing was charging me, and I was just like, I don't even know why I'm bothering.
I guess I'll die then.
Yeah.
By the time you could use like enough supplements to make her like deploy things faster, it's like I just have a different method, or I'm just not seeing these things enough, and I'm just not worried about it. It's like the only time I really saw Ellie use that very effectively was when I was Abby and I was trying to catch her, and I'm trying to run away from her, and then all of a sudden, you just hear and Abby flies off in the corner in a bloody fucking mess, and I'm like, oh wow, all right, that was really fucking great.
That, and she carried like a dozen of them.
Oh yeah. Though I did like the little comments of like where you just see her like walking along and you see like her outline like lean down, and Abby's just like, what the hell is she doing? And I'm like, what the hell is she doing? And then the first time I'm like, oh, motherfucker, that's right. She has the goddamn trip mine. She's using the shit that I used on other things on me. God damn it.
Honestly, I don't know. I think you guys are just fucking up with them. I'll just put it out there. There are some instances in this game where if you set them far enough apart and then back yourself up behind all of them and then just pop one bullet in the air, all the enemies come in and you can get like sometimes even two at a time where they blow up. And then the sound cues off the rest of the people to come up. And then the next wave blows up. And you can just set like a whole line of these and clear out an entire area just with like one bullet and like 4 of these mines.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure. But no.
Okay. Let's plan them right behind the enemy and wonder why it kills ourselves.
They use like one of the same resources from the Molotov, and they shared a resource with the bow arrows. And I was much more inclined to use those 2 items than I was the fucking trip mines.
I did love those fucking Molotovs.
Yeah, Molotovs were the shit.
Especially when they're like having some of the opening scene and there's like the 2 enemies that are near each other and they're just talking, oh, well, what about this? I heard that we were moving out to here. Da-da-da. Molotov, you're both dead. Fuck you. And then it's like, oh, I heard something over here. Send the dogs. Molotov, fried puppy and another fried person. Fuck you.
Hot dog.
He was hoping it would circle back. He thought of that an hour ago.
Yes, he did. How do I get this out? How do I get this out? Mine's dogs. There it is.
Hey, that's a delicacy in some countries. Get out of here, Jesse.
War is a crazy thing.
And cocaine.
I'll leave it.
I'll leave
it. Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
All right, I'll just side topic. You can cut it out if you want, Harry. The dog thing in Korea is because the North Koreans, when they invaded South Korea, they killed all of the livestock, so they didn't have a choice, and so they started eating dogs. And some people just do it out of tradition.
Oh, learn something new every day.
It's sad.
It is sad.
Yeah,
war is fucking nuts.
While we're talking some of the items
about depressing ass shit,
yeah, I don't like the stun grenades or the stun cans.
And then, well, it's good because they don't like you either.
I was like, oh, that's not much better than a bottle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be honest. I did not use one stun grenade the entire time.
I used one against Abby accidentally once.
Yeah.
It was like one of those, oh God, I got to switch to this item. And Whoops.
Panics up. Like, that's not a health kit.
When it came to like the crafting and stuff, I pretty much had a process. It's like number one thing, max out health kits. Secondly, after that, once health kits were up, all right, what does that share with? Molotovs. Okay, then Molotovs. Or a silencer for like the canister and the rag. That's right, because you need the rag for
Piece
like
of shit pistol.
Yeah, it's that pistol was a hunk of fucking
I
junk.
stopped making the silencers just because I was like, this pistol is fucking useless anyway. I did upgrade the silencer to take like 5 bullets before it dies or whatever, and like still some things took more than those 5 bullets to take down. I was like, what's the point in the silencer? Because they're just fucking screaming anyway.
The only time I actually would really craft a silencer was when I was out of arrows and I didn't have anything to craft arrows, because you could still, if you were in close enough range, you could still get like an aim, like on like aim at the head. You could just pop their head off and still be okay for a couple more shots. But other than that, that's pretty much it. And I found it more annoying trying to save a silencer if shit popped off and I had a quick switch over in the menu and hold triangle to, disarm it and then go back in and go from there. Which some of like the weapon switching was a real pain in the dick until you started finding like the shotgun holster or like another holster, so you can at least have 2 rows for like your handguns or like your other heavier weapons.
Something I wanted to touch on real quick. Abby's,
here's my dick.
Abby's playthrough had a tone change, I want to say, from Ellie's. There was 2 segments during Abby's playthrough. One when you're in the basement of the medical or of the hospital. And when you're descending the hotel. I thought they were both somewhat frightening moments to play.
Yeah. That rat king
more so
fight
with
was ridiculous.
Yes.
That fucking hospital was nuts.
It was kind of scary. It felt a little on the
I think it
Silent
took me
Hill-ish
like
side
3
of things.
hours to get through that hotel or the hospital. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and fucking chill for a minute.
Yeah,
that big fucker killed me a lot of times too. I'm not gonna lie.
The butcher or whatever.
The Rat King is called.
The Rat King.
Yeah. That thing was fucking terrifying.
The conglomeration of infected.
Yeah. And it would just sprout out more infected after you were like taking it down. It's like this is bad. I think that was the single point in the game that I did all of my running, other than like chase scenes. It's like that was literally, I did not stop moving at all. And I'm like running through, and then you run by where it's like there's ammo or something else sitting around, and it's like, I can't stop to fucking pick it up or I'm gonna die. It's like I can't do this. I need to try to get as far as I can, hope something's in this room, and then as soon as it's busting down the wall, I hope I can find like a crack to squeeze through so I can actually like get away from it just to keep running again. It's like that was fucking nuts. Although I will say, out of like for the weapons and whatnot, that was the only time that I actually used the fucking flamethrower. Other than that, I
use the flamethrower all the time. I thought it was awesome.
Yep. I just didn't find any other like practical uses at the time for
I used
my
it on
own
the boomer dudes.
No, yeah, I could
Boomer
see that.
dudes, clickers. It was great because the clickers would, when you hit them, they would still continue to flail. So, like, if runners ran past them, they would catch all of them on fire. Same with the stalkers, and it would just clickers. Once you caught them on fire, were like great, like just walls of infecting other people. It was great.
But I mentioned the descent. It's not as scary as the basement of the hospital, but you had those guys that would peel out of the walls when you walk by them.
Fucking
Yeah.
tripped me out for the
Dudes,
rest of the
man.
game.
Yeah.
You're just looking at everything. It's like, oh, there's a growth on the wall. When is it going to fucking pop out?
Did you start shooting them in the head prior to them getting off the wall? Because you could do that.
Yep, I started doing
Oh,
that.
you
as well.
could? I tried.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just shooting the wrong ones.
No.
Yeah. Because if you shot them in the head while they're in the wall, they fall out of the wall.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't do that. Okay.
Yeah.
I
That would have been
hated
good to
those
know.
fucking stalkers.
The
Yeah.
stalkers were kind of creepy. They really honestly like freaked me out. It was like, oh god. Oh god,
can
you
never
just see
see
them
where
and they're
they're
like
at.
looking around a corner at you, and then they like hide, and you're like, ah, god
Yeah.
damn it.
Yeah, you can't listen to them
Yep.
because they're stalkers. So you're just coming down, and it's like unless like you just startled it and it runs, that's pretty much it. And then it's you just hope that you can have enough shit to throw in the middle of a hallway to just like draw it out. And I threw so many bottles into like nothingness just because I'm like, don't pop around a corner and get me. Don't pop around a corner. Son of a bitch, it popped around a corner and fucking got me.
That was the perfect place in the office building to use the trip mines, because I actually made a perimeter wall and just kept incrementally moving it forward so that they couldn't sneak around behind me.
Yeah, you know what? Now
That sounds very effective, actually.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. I do like the fact that they introduced new infected in the game. I mean, it'd be surprising if they didn't. Did we see any of like was it like the rhino ones from the first one that I just remember? What's that?
It was the bloater, right? The big guy.
Yeah, was that it? Because the only one the scene that really sticks out to me was in the first one when you're in like the gym and
Yeah.
it runs across when it catches you and it puts its hands like on like
Wasn't
either side of like your mandibles and just rips your mouth like completely open.
There was a couple in this game.
Was that the guy that was like in the games place with like all the pinball machines and shit like that, where you
Yes,
fall through the
yeah.
floor?
Yep, that was one of those. The
okay.
flashback with Joel when it's crashing through the walls.
Yeah, there was there was the flashback.
There was a couple that I think they were getting mixed up with the acid guy, though.
Yeah,
they looked similar in style. I mean, one was much easier to kill than the other, but
Yeah.
I think they looked similar graphically. Uh-oh. Sorry, wrong category.
Yeah. But some of those fucking horde rushes were kind of rough. Like when Yara and Lev are leading Abby out and then they like kind of crawl through like the abandoned building and Abby's left by herself and she's like, oh fucking
yeah.
scars. And then it's just like clickers and then acid dudes and then more runners and then another acid dude that just like pops down off of the second floor. It's like, the fuck did you come from? It's like there were I had many a death in that. I mean, just like the entire game, but that one was pretty rough too. Until it's like, okay, coming down here and go here. Oh, there's a crack in the wall. I can run because something I didn't really utilize too much was running. I just try to stand and fight when sometimes it's like, no, just kind of get the fuck out of there and give yourself some space.
How did you feel about them? Like, I don't know if it's a story element, but like a lot of like the walking on the beams, and then like when you were playing as Abby, you had to traverse across the bridge and stuff like that.
I was okay with it. I mean, like, it wasn't a great mechanic. I think that kind of stuff can be very cheesy in a game, but you know, it is what it is.
I mean, they at least factored in like her hate of heights. Like, hey, I get you, girl. I'd shit my pants.
I just felt like it wasn't like very obvious which way you were leaning or anything. Like I just was like, oh, the controller is vibrating. I must be leaning the wrong direction, but which way I couldn't tell because like you were just constantly like flailing back and forth.
Honestly, running across the beams, like I wouldn't just hold the joystick straight up. I'd like go up and then I kind of go left and right anyway, just to kind of like I'd make myself wobble a little bit. So hopefully, like if it starts leaning one way, I'm pushing the other way. Then I didn't really find like too much of a problem.
I don't really have any thoughts on it. It was there, but what didn't impress me.
Now, I did really enjoy the cuts, like some of the chase scenes, like where you're forced to run through, like when you're chasing Nora. And I know there was a couple when you're trying to escape the hordes and whatnot, and you're trying to jump over tables or like gurneys, and you have to like quick think and try to find like the crack in the wall or like jump up on a table to go through maybe a broken window like on the top of a doorway and whatnot. It's like I'd like that they actually threw some of those in there because it definitely added a tense situations. Like I gotta go.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that I really liked in this too, kind of touched on in story, was the hand-to-hand combat sequences throughout the game. I think there was like 3 notable ones.
Some kumite going on. hand-to-hand fight to
I
the
thought
death.
that was pretty cool because you fight the stair fight
Yeah.
the first time when you're like protecting your and Lev, and then you fight the other guy.
Yeah, it's like
on the island.
fucking Ingrid starts coming through. It's like one or two of them were dudes. The other time it was just like other ox of women, just like I am Bertha. I will destroy you. Let me crush your head. It's like, what fucking Soviet country did you come out of, and how did you end up here? It's like, you look like you're bench pressing like cattle or something else, for fuck's sake. And they all had that braid in the hair where it's like, yeah, you're fucking old world. You're old world, bitch. It's like that all comes back to, that's just to prep you for the end battle. And it's like, fucking A. Or, oh, the fucking dude when you're going through the village and you take like the knife or
Yeah.
something and you slice his mouth.
Oh man.
And his jaw is just fucking jiggling, and he's still just going. It's like, why won't you die?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that was the
fucking
second one I was talking about.
God, he started looking like if he had some like jacked up teeth, like his unhinged jaw, he looked like fucking Baraka.
Yeah, seriously, like he was all ripped up. He was literally, it was from like the crease of your lip to the fucking bottom of your ear. Like,
You want to know how I got these scars? It's like,
no, I
fuck.
don't. Leave me alone,
Stair fights.
sir.
Yeah, at least that one, it got a little more graphic, and it's like, that's, compared to the rest of them, it's like, okay, what do I do? It's like the one lady, when you were saying like protecting Yara and Lev, it's like, that bitch kicked my ass. It's like, no
Yeah.
joke. It's like some fucking Belle Gunnis right there. It's like
Bell Gunnis. Oh my god.
I mean, they had like it was still like kind of neat though that they were like, oh, this is a kind of a boss fight, because they had like their phases. It was like,
Yeah.
like once you got your first attack in, then you had to dodge twice, and then once you got the second attack in, it was like dodge 3 times because they were going to attack 3 times.
necessary. I guess something, at least for gameplay, I did like some of the more environmental interactive things. Like in the first one, you had where you picked up like a plank or a board to make like a little bridge. This one, you had like the ropes and such, where you kind of had to figure that out. And sometimes you had to take a brick or a bottle, break open a window, then grab the rope, throw the rope out, go back to another area to like kind of scale up or whatnot. I liked it where they made it a little extra platform adventure in that type of game, where you kind of had to figure some shit out, and it wasn't just clear, cut, and dry right in front of your face.
Actually, yeah. Speaking on that, the environmental puzzles, for lack of a better description, some of those have alternate paths to get some of the collectibles
Oh,
in the
really?
game. And I didn't know that, or even had any idea of that, until I followed this guide. There was some, like, you remember early when you have to unlock that gate, the one zone you get to, and then Dina is waiting outside with the horse. You climb up to the top, climb in, and then you have to figure out a way to get the gate open. So you throw this electrical cord over, plug it into the one building, put it, all that jazz. There's an alternate way to throw the electrical cord so that you can climb it on top of the trailer where you initially find the cord. And I had no idea of this, but there's like a whole stand and like a trading card up there, and like a bunch of ammo. There was like a little like a beach chair for some guy had set up his little camp on top of the trailer. But I wouldn't have found this out unless I was playing around, I guess, with throwing the cord in different areas. All right, let's Molotov some puppies and talk some graphics.
Yikes.
No, more like
yikes.
more like yelps. That's what.
Graphics.
So one thing I was specifically looking at graphically in this game is facial reactions, and I think this is probably the new standard, in my eyes at least, on facial reactions in character models.
Yeah, with each slap, there was some wincing kind of going on. Fuck. I mean, I don't know if the slapping was coming from behind, or if it was a result from behind, which was the front. I mean, I'm not sure.
Oh God, wouldn't it have been hilarious if just Owen just turned her around and slapped her chest with a spatula.
This side's done.
Jesus Christ.
It just goes out. It's like, got something on your shirt. Flap, 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 flap. It just turns into like the old fucking blinds. It just pulls down on it and just rolls up and flap, 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 flap. It just keeps rolling over.
Oh my god.
All right. Audio.
Yeah, like the facial expressions have such like subtleties to them. Like it may be like a slight squint of the eyes just with each word of dialogue. Like it may change just little by little.
Yeah, I like that the character models didn't all look like, in quotations, pretty people. They all look like normal people. You know what I mean? It made it like more realistic as a game.
Like if you're walking down the street after a pandemic, it's like, oh yeah, no, I could see your face. But it's not. It's not like they didn't have to make them beautiful or something else. It's like, no, hey, this has been years after like shit's gone down. People are going to be looking a little rugged. Some, like fucking cult Bertha, she's looking pretty haggard and she's ready to rock and roll. And
I don't even mean that like post-apocalyptic. I just meant they just look like people and not models. You know what I mean? Dirty or not, they look like your average person.
Yeah. Well, even when I was looking through some of like the IMDb, like there were some characters that they made kind of look like the voice actors for them, but they toned down the looks a little bit where it's like some of them were like pretty handsome or like, really beautiful people. And then it's like, you're a little too nice looking. We need to take this down a couple notches.
Lazy eye.
we need to Steve
eye.
you down a little bit. It's like you need an extra wrinkle
you
here.
down a little bit.
Maybe like an extra wrinkle. Let's put a mole here. Not as perky breasts, so it works out. I mean, kind of like all around. The environments were fucking impressive.
I've always said this. I think I've brought this topic up in quite a few discussions that we've had on games. Pacific Northwest, known for the rain, and I love the rain.
Yeah.
And it was on, I believe, day 2 and day 3 in Seattle. So it was a majority of the playthrough of the game, and I loved it. I thought it was gorgeous. I even like exploring that one environment in like the little motorboat where you're going through like the flooded buildings of on your way to the
rapids
aquarium.
and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Seattle turned into like a very violent Venice. It's like waterways everywhere. I mean, they even said it's like they're going to use the big storm as cover. The wolves were going to use the storm as cover to go attack the scars. And it's they definitely embodied some
the Seraphites.
I'm trying. I really did like the fact that it's like, oh wow, this is pretty rainy and depressing. Oh, Seattle. Here we go.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, the Space Needle. The what? Never mind. But even like outside and going through the towns and whatnot, the waving of the grass and like just showing the overgrowth of the city itself. I thought that was a really good standout that they put a lot of attention to detail into this.
It was nice that they threw Santa Barbara in at the end. I think they just wanted to experiment with a whole different landscape. Honestly,
Yeah,
It was
I
kind
think
of
that's why they
refreshing.
chose it.
in the village. I thought the village stood out too, like kind of a more jungle.
The village where the Seraphites were.
Yeah,
It felt very Viking.
yeah.
With the architecture.
Just everything like man-made, like old
The
school. Yeah.
A-frame houses, water wheel, like all the logging they were doing. Like it felt very like Viking,
Rustic, like old
Yeah.
school, like early settler type.
like thatch roofs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, honestly, I think this game stacks up as one of the better looking of the generation, for sure.
On a small detail end of things, there was the scene after Joel's death, where I think you're walking to whose house was that? I think it was Tommy's house or Tommy's wife's house, and
Maria.
you're walking through, maybe, and you're walking through the snow, approaching the front of the house, kind of down the one street. I don't know. It was really early in the game. I kind of remember looking at the snow on the ground, and it had like all the tire tracks and like the footprints that you were leaving as you're walking through. And even the way the sunlight was kind of glistening off of piles of snow and ice, it just looked very well crafted, like borderline realistic at times as well. I just kind of remember that one specific thing. Not that any other part of the game was bad looking or anything. That one really stood out, like above and beyond.
The first time I was in the rain and then like exited the rain, like, because when like you're soaking wet and then you go somewhere dry, like the way your character looks soaking wet, like, and then actually takes time to dry off, I thought was actually like awesome.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, I'm just out of a body of water, so immediately, I'm dry, or I can just
like
go.
You would drip water, leave footprints like as you were traveling until like you dried off or whatever.
It sticks
But
around.
I thought that was cool. Yeah.
I've often thought about that mechanic in games because I have noticed that detail in a lot of games. How long do you think they typically wait to complete the full transition between wet and dry? There's got to be like a certain test that they've done where people forget to look and then they can
It's not
finish
long.
off that. No, I know it's not long. It's probably less than 15 seconds in my opinion.
It might be like 30 or 45, but not much longer than that.
Anything else with graphics, guys?
The level of gore and the detail of the gore is, I think, really stepped up in this game compared to some others.
Oh yeah, the dismemberment is kind of fucking crazy. Like if you shoot somebody in the head, you see the entry and exit wound. It's fucking nuts.
And then going back to like one of the opening scenes where you just see Joel being beaten into a bloody pile of meat, like they don't take away from that. It's insane the amount of detail that it's like, this is where this thing strikes. So this specific area is what's going to be most damaged, and this is where like it's like the blood and sinew and shit is flying out of. And I guess coming back around to like when it came to like the developers, it's like you can work on something else because this has to be someone made that. That's got to fuck you up a little bit. Either that, or you have fucking Frank who's over there like, yeah, look how good that looks. It's great. It's like, dude, are you okay?
And here's your psych evaluation.
Yeah, let's strum the guitar into audio.
Audio as expected for this. Completely well done. I did enjoy some of the song choices that they made for Ellie singing on the guitar, as in "Take on Me." It's like I actually do kind of like that song, so I wasn't upset. I'm like, oh, they're playing the classics. All right, let's go.
As to be expected, the dialogue and voice actors top notch in this game. I think they even kind of stepped up their game with the banter from the first game to the second game. Like I think the first one was definitely known for it. So I think they just embellished on that a lot a bit. And I like how you visit a character, like for example, it was Ellie and Dina having conversations for a bit, and then Ellie and Jesse, and like the tones and conversations and topics would vary from grouping to grouping. I don't think they stayed with any particular pairing excessively long, to the point where it was boring at that point.
I agree.
And I think all of these, actually more, I think this again sets another standard, but the tones of speech and the way they do their delivery, I think it's on par as like one of the best examples for voice acting experience.
Yeah, Naughty Dog like traditionally runs a masterclass on how you voice act a game. They're always top notch when it comes to something like this, like the Uncharted games, now the Last of Us games. You know, they have it on lock, and this is just another example of that.
The other thing that like really stands out in this game, and it's again no different from the first one, but it's one of those ones that like they just do it so well, and like it's so important to the game, is the sound of every infected that you come across. As you know, because every battle has its sound cue, and like to add not only just the infected, but like the Seraphite's whistle on top of it, and everything that goes along with that. It's such good sound direction to like do those things and cue a player up for those things.
Yeah, it's you can definitely be taken by surprise, like with like little jump scares or something else, but otherwise it's like, oh, okay, something's about to happen. You just hear like the little bit of like music change or like a little high pitched thing come through, and you're like, shit's about to go down. Get ready, buckle up, buckaroo.
No better example to kind of build on what you said, though, Joe. There's that point in the game where you're traveling with Yara inside the aquarium and she's looking for Lev, and she releases out the whistle in the aquarium to try to call out to him.
Mm-hmm. You can hear it's inside something.
Well, yeah, not only that, but it's still like you said with that audio cue for battle, it kind of a split second there thinks, oh God, I got to prep for battle.
Yeah.
Like it really kind of sets that expectation of what to come following a sound cue.
It's another thing where it's like the little details of it is like your fight scene with Ellie, and you have to be very careful of where you're walking because you might walk on like the shattered vase, or even sometimes when I'm walking through like an old building and I'm like crouched and walking around and I hear something like, oh, what the fuck was that? And then I realized like, oh, it's me. I'm walking on a broken pane of glass, and it's the small crunching of the glass underneath my feet. And I thought it was something that's down the hallway, but oh no, that was me.
Right. Yeah. Like just the small attention to detail in the audio is incredible.
Across the whole scope between that and the small nuances in the emotions of the voice acting, where it's like it feels real in the way that they actually really had everything delivered. And it's like you felt the emotion of every single like sad or happy scene and whatnot. Like, yeah, it makes you believe, okay, this is really happening. Not just forced. Oh, Ellie. No, it's not just there. It's like, oh, okay. No, they fucking care.
I do like like you were saying, Steve, like the little songs that they periodically throw into the story where she just kind of picks up the guitar, plays a song, and then they kind of play it out a little bit. The only aspect of the game I wasn't blown away on audio wise was like the background music. I mean, it was, we've used this term a lot, but it was serviceable, but it didn't blow me away. This is not one of those games I would kind of look up the soundtrack for.
I could kind of see some of that. It's like, I feel like though between the music that's playing while you're playing may not stand out. Going back to what Joe said earlier too, it's like even just sticking around for the credits and just listening to the soundtrack playing through that. It's like, no, I could put that like on a loop. It's like
it was very relaxing.
The ones you can tell where it's like, oh no, we're going to make something out of this is like, okay, yeah, no, I'd buy this CD. Or I'm sorry, I would download this album. You don't buy CDs anymore. Fucking old.
Let's plummet off a beam into a pool and discuss our final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Who would like to start?
I'll start. I so fucking glad finally played this fucking game. It took so long, and it's nothing against the games that we've played or anything, but for a while I've kind of felt a little bit of like a disconnect where I just don't really feel the same as I used to when I used to play video games. After this brought me back. This kind of brought back the love it, where it's not just doing it for the podcast, or it's not just something to do. This is where it's an entire experience. It's a whole ride. I have not been this emotionally invested in a game in a long time. And I even said that to Morgan. It's like, it's been a while since I felt this. And she's like, you seemed like really, really into it, especially at the end. It's like, I was. It's like, it encaptured me. It brought me in, and I felt a full range between playing between Ellie and Abby and their stories and their conflicts and their similarities. And then the conflict I felt about their conflicts and similarity. It was just, there was a lot that went on with it. And it's been a while since I really actually got that out of a game. And to that, I just want to say thanks, Harry. I needed that to kind of like this kicked up another spark that I haven't felt playing games in quite a while, or at least for something like this.
Joe, you want to go?
Sure. Steve kind of brought up some points that I wanted to make that I kind of want to maybe go a little bit further with them. Similar but different anyway. So I would agree. This game, did have me emotionally invested. And the thing that I kept thinking after this game was over for me was like, honestly, I just kept thinking back to how I felt when I finished Life is Strange and kind of comparing those two feelings, because that was in a very emotionally invested game as well. My immediate reaction was like, I want Naughty Dog to make a game like Life is Strange, which would never happen, but I think it would be cool. And then like just overall satisfaction with finally getting done this game after a year and saying I can completed it, and kind of, as most of us would agree, finishing Ellie's story. It felt very satisfying.
Like you got closure almost.
Yeah, the Last of Us 1 in a vacuum does not feel like a finished story.
I think that's intentional, but yeah.
No, absolutely. I think they always had full intention of fleshing that out. Just waiting for the right story to do that, I think. Yeah. I don't think they wanted to rush it. And I think they took an appropriate amount of time. And I'm sorry, Clark. I was going to offer to do your final thoughts, but now I'm just kind of rolling along.
Go for it.
Maybe I should just wrap it up.
That's coming naturally, man.
But I kind of agree that this isn't playing a game. This is more of like an experience. Very, very similar. Because I was also feeling along the Life is Strange thoughts as well. Where once you set it down, you come away just kind of asking yourself, well, how do I feel about this ending? Would things have been differently if these choices were made? And kind of like really not just taking it for what it is, but kind of really like exploring in your own head, like what this could have been, or like, I don't know, just almost like you weren't ready for the game to be over kind of experience.
Yeah.
Where you just need to play it over in your head and I don't know, just really let it kind of set in that this is the events that have occurred. So yeah, without kind of going any further, I think that kind of wraps up my final thoughts. It was an experience, not a game. Clark, you're up.
This game sucks. No, I'm kidding.
You son of a bitch.
Here comes the heel turn.
I'm starting over now, motherfucker.
No, this game really was enjoyable, and I was very pleasantly surprised just the improvements from 1 to 2. I had a great time playing it. I was really invested in the story. Like you guys were saying, the like emotional connection to the characters and things like that was there for me this time. And just all in all, I just think it was just an incredible experience. And well done, Naughty Dog. You have made a better game than the predecessor, which is usually something that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I know, right? I will say, I was looking forward, especially after beating it, and I know you kind of gave us a little bit of, insider information saying that you did have fun, but really kind of getting your take on this is like, did they redeem themselves, like compared to what you felt from the first game?
In my eyes, they've made me interested in what a part 3 would be. I won't say that this game makes the first one any better in my eyes.
Yep. No,
but I think they did. I think they did themselves like they did a good job with this one. They got themselves a customer back for the franchise.
Let's slap some pancakes and get into the score.
The score.
All right, Steve, why don't you start with your score?
I can't say anything else, and I won't do my, this score, but it could be this score. This is just A+ in my book.
Thank you, Steve. Joe, what were you going to grade this?
I am going to give this a 95%.
Mr. Clark.
This is definitely a buy for me. I think it's well worth the price of admission.
So I was going to give this game a 9.5 out of 10, which is going to tie with Earthbound and Alan Wake. All right. Well, thanks for listening this evening. We will see you again in 2 weeks. And until the meantime, stay sexy.
I love you guys.
Stay safe.
Stay lovely.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on social media and all streaming platforms at Superfun Podcast for more episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend about us and consider becoming a Patreon member for more exclusive content.